CNN 10, dozens of tornadoes hitting from Texas to the East Coast. Incredible efforts being made to keep education going. A junkie makes headlines. 40 tornadoes. That's as late how many were reported from the weekend through Monday. And that's where we begin today's edition of CNN 10. I'm Carl Others. This all started on Saturday when a storm system hit the south and then began driving east. According to the Weather Channel, every state from Texas to Mid-Atlantic was affected. The storm spawned dozens of tornadoes, knocked down trees, cut off electricity for hundreds of thousands, and killed at least 13 people. Hundreds of buildings were destroyed. We heard the rumble and unidentified female saying, "We heard the rumble and we started looking and we saw the tornado. We could tell it was going to be about a mile or so south of but you could hear it and we knew that it was going to be bad. And the system was still threatening Americans when we produced this show. It was moving northeast toward Virginia and even threatening New York with strong winds and heavy rain. 39 million people in 11 states face the possibility of severe weather on Monday. It was an emergency on top of an emergency. It brought new challenge to the state government. We are trying to find balance between keeping people safe from storm and keeping people safe from coronavirus. A severe weather approach. Mississippi government officials say finding a shelter was more important than social distancing. That they said if people went to a public shelter, they should keep their noses and mouths covered. Louisiana governor asked some hotels to provide rooms for people who lost their homes to so they wouldn't have to risk catching coronavirus at a public shelter. Hotlines were set up to help them find a place to stay, and state of emergency have been declared to speed up help those who need it. 10-second severe, which is the of this NASA astronaut did not walk on the moon. Buzz Aldrin, B. Alan Shepard, C. Edward Mitchell, D. James Lovell, and the answer is D. Though James Lovell never set foot on the moon, he did help the Apollo crew back to Earth safely. That happened after a catastrophic explosion in an oxygen tank, and some groups say getting a pilot's 13th crew back home alive was a greater success than their original moon mission would have been. The reason we bring that up because some are comparing today's coronavirus pandemic to a global Apollo 13 moment. Houston, we have a problem with an outbreak, and now people around the world are doing what they can to overcome it. For healthcare workers, this has meant additional round-the-clock shifts and the round-the-clock risk for teachers and parents, who in some cases are now on one in the same. This has meant finding ways to keep the learning going in a very different environment. To put it into some context, if the moon's child, it's the kid in the landing a man on the man. Actually, school during a pandemic might even be harder than that. This is our a pilot 13 moment. Houston, we have a problem. We are missing control. We are Houston, and how now our moonshot might not be landing them on the moon. It getting home safe. Anyone who has a student in their house knows how important teachers and have been in this crisis.